Hello and welcome to the Season 7 finale of Spurs Up. I'm Connor Lomis, alongside me, Tom Santaniello, and for our last show, we'll be bringing you everything Gamecock Football. With only 3 games remaining and a lot of changes in the football organization, we have a ton to bring you today. So, Tom, first things first, my friend, Will Muschamp fired this past week, and Mike Bobo is going to come in and be the coach for the rest of the season. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I think they could have waited till the end of the season. I definitely get why they did it. I think, you see the reports out there that fan apathy was at a high. I don't think that the fans would have been able to tolerate another poor performance. The team obviously looked horrible those last 3 games. I think there was like 159 points in 3 games, something like that. And for a defensive-minded coach giving up 700 yards of offense, 60 points to Ole Miss, that's just not going to cut it. I think the difference was the players clearly loved him. Guys are opting out. Guys are going after the fans on Twitter. The players obviously loved him. It's a results-oriented business, and the results weren't there. And the program is just clearly headed in the wrong direction because he had that 9-win season in year 2. He won the Outback Bowl, went to a bowl game his first 3 years, but then last year 4-8, and then this year, obviously a tough schedule in the SEC. They just weren't getting things done. And after that Auburn game, they just haven't looked right. Right,
and we know that in the SEC, winning is everything. And if a coach and if a team in general is not performing and getting wins, coach is going to be under the hot seat. It's always coming down to the coach, and that's NFL, that's college, it doesn't matter. But Will Muschamp, you hinted on it. It seems like players absolutely loved him, and it's going to be devastating for them to come back from this. And I think they'll be fine under Mike Bobo. They have a newfound respect. He's been a good offensive coordinator, and I think he's really going to step up. And hopefully we see a lot of good things from this team going forward. And the best of luck to Will Muschamp, wherever he ends up. And I'm sure that he's doing okay. He got a good opt-out price for himself. So
he'll land on his feet. He'll be a coordinator somewhere and make a lot of money, and he'll make someone real happy.
Absolutely. So talking about Will Muschamp, right after, a lot of guys opted out this season, going straight to the NFL draft, and also deciding that, the rest of the season wasn't the right move for them, and respectably so. I understand with the injuries. So talk about them a little bit and what your thoughts are about that.
I think once JC opted out, Israel was going to follow. They have such a good connection there. They've been like brothers. They talk about. They're real close. Arguably the best cornerback duo in the country. I shouldn't say arguably. I think very clearly in the SEC when those two are healthy, no one's throwing the ball on the outside. But JC when Horn opted out, it made a lot of sense. You saw Muschamp going into the year was a late first-round pick projected, and now you're thinking he slid into a late second, early third because of that hamstring injury. Horn knows one injury, there goes his millions. Roderick, who knows if he would have played the rest of the season. He's been banged up too, and then Micaiah Scott obviously opted out too. He wasn't a real factor on the team this year, but he made a decision that he felt was right for him. I think that Muschamp and Horn, nothing but respect for those guys. They did what they had to do. You're going to go back and forth on opt-outs. Should you play in a bowl game? But I think all things considered, long-term for them, they made the right decision. Roderick, who really knows? He made a decision for himself. And then Micaiah Scott, I guess he's just one of the many, many players who loves Muschamp because you've seen it on social media. Everybody rushed to his defense. Former players when he was at Florida. Hayden Hurst went on a whole long thing about, after he had that incident where he tried committing suicide, Will Muschamp called him every day for like a week, and even in the hospital was like, he can't take calls right now. Muschamp was calling every day. Very much a player's coach. Like we said, he just wasn't getting it done on the field.
Yeah, and outside of coaching, it's a family thing in this organization, and I think that's why the fans, the players, everybody just respected him, and just you can see the domino effect of the Will Muschamp firing. It's unbelievable and everything going on, but defense responding to all these players opting out, Will Muschamp leaving, it's going to be a big thing, especially in that secondary with JC and Israel leaving. That's huge for that secondary. And I mean, they really locked down everything. Do you think this defense can recover and be the defense that we expected them to be all season for the next 3 games in this season?
I think when you lose, I'd argue your 2 best defensive players, that's an uphill battle. Using R.J. Roderick, who not always the best in coverage, but good in run support and experienced safety for the team. They're moving a running back to his spot now. Zaquan Joe-Wright's coming over from the offense, 3rd-string running back. I mean, he's a great athlete. He's doing what he can to help the team out, but that back end of the defense was already shaky, and now there's a bunch more question marks. That front 7, they're going to need to keep getting pressure. JJ and Agbari is going to have a big game. Ernest Jones is going to have to continue to solidify things in the running game, especially like a run-heavy offense like Missouri. And then Jordan Birch. Seems like we haven't really heard his name since Vanderbilt. A little bit of flashes in the Auburn game, but we just haven't seen him. He was a top recruit, Muschamp's guy. He's got to show up and prove why he was the top player in South Carolina last year.
I could not agree more with you about that. Jumping to the other side of the ball, this offense got rolling last week. I mean, Ole Miss had a tough time containing this South Carolina offense, and it was very obvious where it was coming from. It was Kevin Harris.
Right.
And I've been saying this for weeks. You got to get Kevin Harris the ball. He's the best running back in the SEC, in my opinion. He proved it. What are these stats? It was 25 carries, 243 yards. That's a 9.7 average, 5 touchdowns last week. It's just the recipe's so simple, and I think Mike Bobo's figuring that out. And it's good that they're finally figuring it out. Colin Hill is a game manager. He's doing a good job. He really is not doing poorly at all. And I don't know. I think you get Kevin Harris the football, you have a chance to really win these next couple games. I mean, coming into this game against Missouri tomorrow, a 7:30 game, which is great. And then Georgia, that's a tough game, 13 Georgia. And then Kentucky, but you look at the Kentucky-Missouri game, I really think these Gamecocks have a chance that this offense can explode like they did against Ole Miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you put the nail kind of right there on the head where Colin Hill's a game manager. And something that Mike Bobo hit on in his press conference on Tuesday was that the team just needs to play better around him. I don't know how he said the team needs to play better when you have a running back setting a school record for touchdowns. And I want to say he was within like 30 yards of the school record for rushing yards, and he only got like 2 touches the rest of the game. That can't happen, but game script obviously worked against him. Time was running out. Ole Miss was scoring at will. Gamecocks needed points, and they just couldn't keep running the ball. Even though Kevin Harris, every time it seemed like he touched the ball, it was a 30-yard run. It was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that. But I think you hit the nail right on the head. You know, South Carolina goes in tomorrow 6.5-point underdogs against Missouri. I think that's a little ambitious from the bettors out in Vegas. I think that that's going to be a closer game. I definitely think South Carolina should go in as an underdog, but that's a very winnable game. I think Kentucky's a very winnable game. And honestly, I'm not going to say that lightning strikes twice with Georgia, but they have not looked like the typical Georgia Bulldog team. The defense continues to look great, but after taking a couple steps forward earlier in the season, that offense is struggling again. More quarterback changes, Kirby Smart. There's just some issues down in Athens right now, and I think that if they overlook South Carolina for the second year in a row, Mike Bobo could get a signature win on that short interim head coaching resume.
And that win would be huge for Mike Bobo, coming right into it to a win against Georgia. What an unbelievable start that would be. And, you know, predictions for the rest of the season, this Missouri game coming up, like you mentioned, a very winnable game. The Georgia game, lightning strikes twice, who knows, you know. But Kentucky, also a very winnable game. And you hit the nail on the head, like you've been saying I have. I think those are the keys in order to win some of these games. And Mike Bobo would have such signature wins, and especially with such a depleted team, this secondary, all these players opting out, the Will Muschamp firing, you know, all that is going to definitely be factors in seeing where this organization goes, where this football team goes, especially in the next coming years. But yeah, Tom, so that's all we got for you guys, and this was our last episode of Spurs Up. This is Tom and I's last episode of Spurs Up. We're seniors going into the broadcast senior semester next year, and Nick and Louie are going to be taking over Spurs Up, so the best of luck to them. And Tom, from you and me, the last time, Spurs Up, South Carolina.